Hi, it's Mark Donegan with the Marketing Execution Podcast. Founders think they need a perfect business plan before launching, but the data proves otherwise. 75% of startups fail following that exact playbook. This episode tackles why the lean startup methodology changes everything about building new ventures. As someone who's guided dozens of B2B tech companies through customer development, I've seen this approach cut failure rates dramatically. Now, here's my conversation on transforming how startups find product market fit.
Tune in, listen up, it's marketing time. Bright ideas sparking, growing your mind. From strategies to big exec dreams, catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Welcome to the Marketing Execution Podcast. This is the show for tech founders and leaders building B2B products and technologies. We show you how to go further, faster to get the business results you need.
From strategies to big exec dreams, catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Mark, you know how we always tell founders to write a business plan first. Like, that's the gospel, right? Well, I'm starting to think that advice might actually be hurting people.
You're going there today. I love it. Yeah, look, the business plan thing it's one of those sacred cows that nobody wants to touch, but you're right to question it.
So, what's the actual problem with it?
Okay, so here's the thing. A business plan is basically a fantasy document. You're sitting at your desk, you're dreaming up this 5-year forecast, projecting revenue and profits, and Tim, nobody knows what's going to happen in 5 years. I mean, the only people who ever required 5-year plans were venture capitalists and the Soviet Union. And we know how that worked out for one of them.
It's a brutal comparison.
But it's true. Here's what I've seen over and over. Founders spend weeks, sometimes months, writing this beautiful plan. They get funding, they built a product in isolation, and then they launch it and customers don't want it. 75% of startups fail. That's not a made-up number. That's Harvard Business School research.
Okay, so if the business plan is dead, what replaces it?
This is where it gets good. Instead of a plan, you start with hypotheses, basically educated guesses about your business. Who's your customer? What problem are you solving? How will you make money? And you put all of this on what's called a business model canvas. It's like, imagine a one-page diagram of your entire business.
Wait, one page?
Yeah. A business plan assumes you know the answers. A business model canvas assumes you don't. It's a starting point for testing, not a finished document.
So you're basically admitting up front that you might be wrong about everything.
Exactly. And that humility is what saves you, because then you do something radical. You get out of the building. You stop sitting at your desk imagining what customers want, and you actually go talk to them.
Like cold calling people, but I think it's more like conversations, right?
Absolutely. You're asking questions. You're listening. I once heard of this company. They were students at Stanford, and they wanted to build robotic lawn mowers for golf courses. Great idea on paper, right?
Sure, sounds reasonable.
They talked to over 100 potential customers in 10 weeks. And guess what? Golf courses didn't care. But farmers were desperate for a way to kill weeds without chemicals. So they pivoted. They built a prototype in 10 weeks. 9 months later, they had $3 million in venture funding.
That's actually wild. They completely changed their target market based on conversations.
And that's the second big point I want to hit on the Marketing Execution Podcast today. This idea of the minimum viable product. Instead of spending years building the perfect thing, you build the smallest possible version that lets you learn from real customers.
So you're basically shipping something that's what? Incomplete?
Not incomplete, but focused. You're testing your core assumption. Does anyone actually want this? And you iterate from there. Quick cycles. Build, measure, learn. Build, measure, learn. It's borrowed from software development, this agile approach, but it works for everything.
Okay, but here's my pushback. What about competition? If you're out there showing people your half-baked product, aren't you giving away your secret sauce?
The stealth mode myth. Look, in most industries, customer feedback matters way more than secrecy. Your competitors probably aren't paying attention to you anyway, and even if they are, execution beats ideas every single time. The founders who win are the ones learning fastest, not the ones hiding longest.
That's a mindset shift for sure.
It really is. And here's the third thing that blows my mind about all this. It's not just for tech startups anymore. I've seen this work at massive corporations. There was this division at a major industrial company. They had developed this new battery technology. Instead of doing the traditional thing, build the factory, scale production, launch big, they went out and talked to customers first.
A big company doing customer discovery?
I know. And they discovered that one of their initial target markets, data centers, wasn't interested at all. But cell phone providers in developing countries with unreliable power grids, huge demand. They ended up investing $100 million in manufacturing, and they had a backlog of orders before they even opened the facility.
So the lesson is, even if you're a big company, you should act like a startup when you're innovating.
Startups search for a business model. Established companies execute on one. But when you're doing something new, even within a big organization, you need to search first. You need to be comfortable with failure, with pivoting, with being wrong.
That sounds so simple when you say it like that, but I imagine most founders still struggle with it.
Oh, absolutely. The hardest part isn't the methodology, it's the ego. It's accepting that your brilliant idea might be wrong, that customers know better than you do. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Mark, that's fascinating. Let's pivot for a second and talk about what this means for a founder who's already launched, who's already got customers but feels stuck. How do they apply this when they're not starting from zero?
You know what, Tim? That question hits different because most founders I talk to are in exactly that position. They've got something live, they've got customers paying, but they feel like they're pushing a boulder uphill every single day.
Right, and the instinct is usually to double down on what's already working, or what they think is working.
Yeah, and that's the trap. Here's the thing, the lean approach isn't just for pre-launch. It's actually more valuable when you've got real data coming in, because now you're testing against reality.
So how does that look practically?
Okay, so let's say you've got a product. You've got customers, but growth has flatlined. Most founders will sit in a room and brainstorm new features. They'll build stuff they think customers want, and then nothing moves.
Because they're still operating on assumptions.
Exactly. The lean mindset says stop, get out of the building again, go back to your existing customers and ask different questions. Not, do you like our product, but what problem are you actually solving with this? You might be surprised.
I've seen that play out. A founder thinks they're selling productivity software and their customers are using it for something completely different.
Man, that happens all the time. And when you discover that gap between what you built and how people use it, that's gold. That's your next pivot, or your next product line, or your real market.
But pivoting when you already have customers feels risky, doesn't it? Like you might alienate the people who are already paying you.
It can feel that way, but a pivot doesn't mean you abandon everything. It means you adjust based on evidence. You're not throwing away your business, you're refining it. And the companies that refuse to do this, they're the ones that get disrupted.
That's the part that scares people, though, the disruption piece.
Look, I get it, but think about it this way. The same forces that created your opportunity are going to create opportunities for someone else. Globalization, technology, regulation changes. These things don't stop. So you have a choice. You can be the one doing the disrupting, or you can be the one getting disrupted.
And the lean approach helps you stay on the right side of that.
It does, because it keeps you close to the customer. It keeps you humble. It keeps you testing instead of assuming.
So even at that scale, the principle holds. Test before you commit.
That's it. And here's what I think is a real shift happening. For 100 years, business education focused on execution, efficiency, running existing models better. But now we have tools for searching, for finding new models. And that's a fundamentally different skill.
Different skill, different mindset.
Execution assumes you know the answers. Searching assumes you don't. And the founders who embrace that uncertainty, who get comfortable being wrong, they're the ones who learn fastest. And learning fast is the only real competitive advantage anymore.
Okay, so we've covered why this matters. We've talked about the mindset shift. But I know our listeners are sitting there thinking, great, but what do I actually do? Let's get into the practical stuff. How do you actually run these experiments? What does a minimum viable product look like in the real world?
Tim, ideas are great, but execution is everything. Let's get into how people can actually use this stuff. It starts with throwing out that 100-page business plan.
I think I just heard a few MBAs gasp in horror.
Let them gasp. You need a scorecard, not a novel. Step 1 is the business model canvas. It is a single diagram with 9 boxes. You map out your value proposition, your customer segments, your channels, everything. But here's the catch. You treat every single thing on that page as a hypothesis. You say, I believe my customer is a 20-year-old gamer. That is a guess. Now you have to verify it. That leads to step 2.
Getting out of the building.
You have to leave the office. I love the story of Blue River Technology, Jorge Heraud and Lee Redden. They had this vision of building robot lawnmowers for commercial spaces.
Like a Roomba for golf courses.
That is exactly what they thought. They mapped it out on their canvas. Target customer, golf courses. Problem, mowing grass is expensive. So they did the work.
They talk to a lot of customers, right? That is serious hustle.
It is. And you know what they found? Golf courses didn't care. They didn't really value the solution. If they had built the product first, they would have been dead in the water. So they kept talking to people. Eventually, they talked to farmers, and the farmers said, we have a huge problem killing weeds without using chemicals. Boom.
There's the product market fit.
Right. They pivoted from mowing grass to killing weeds. Within 10 weeks, they built a prototype. 9 months later, they had over $3 million in venture funding. That brings us to step 3, the minimum viable product.
The famous MVP. But Mark, people get this wrong constantly. They think an MVP is just a buggy, half-finished version of their final vision.
That drives me crazy. An MVP is not a bad product. It's the smallest thing you can build to test a specific hypothesis. Think about a company called Ruminate. They wanted to inspire girls to be engineers with a wired dollhouse kit. Cool concept. They didn't rent the factory. They didn't hire a supply chain manager. They finished their design, sent the specs to a contract manufacturer in China, and had the product in 3 weeks. They tested the market demand before they built the infrastructure.
They reduced the risk of failure by lowering the cost of the first attempt.
You nailed it. And this works for the big guys too. General Electric did this with their energy storage division. They had a new battery technology. The old GE would have built a massive factory first.
Build it and they will come.
And then nobody comes and you lose $100 million. Instead, a guy named Prescott Logan used lean techniques. He went face-to-face with dozens of global prospects. He left the PowerPoint slides at home. He just listened.
That's hard for corporate executives. We love our slide decks.
It is painful, but because he listened, he realized his initial target market was wrong. He thought it was data centers. It wasn't. It was utility companies and cell phone providers in developing countries. They shifted their entire strategy before spending the big money.
So the practical sequence is simple. Sketch the canvas, get out and test the assumptions, build the smallest thing possible to verify the data, then pivot if you need to.
It sounds simple, but it requires humility. You have to be willing to hear that your baby is ugly. You have to be willing to hear that nobody wants what you are building.
Better to hear it on day 1 than on day 1,000.
Definitely. We used to think startups were just smaller versions of big companies. We thought they just needed to execute a plan, but we were wrong. Startups are organizations designed to search. And once you find that repeatable model, then you can switch to execution mode.
That distinction between searching and executing is huge. If you're executing a plan that hasn't been validated, you're just efficiently driving off a cliff.
And lean is a steering wheel that keeps you on the road. It works for software. It works for hardware. It works for the National Science Foundation, which is using this right now to commercialize basic science. It is universal.
Mark, this has been an absolute masterclass. We have covered the theory, the history, and the concrete steps. For the founder listening to this on their commute right now, summarize the big picture for us. What is the one thing they need to take away from this conversation?
All right, let me bring this all together. We started by challenging the sacred cow of business planning. The traditional approach has founders spending months writing fantasy documents about a future nobody can predict. Instead, we talked about starting with hypotheses and putting them on a simple one-page canvas. The key shift is admitting upfront that you might be wrong about everything. Then you get out of the building and actually talk to customers. You look for patterns in their pain. From there, you build the smallest thing possible to test your idea. A video, a landing page, a prototype, whatever gets you real feedback fast. And then you repeat. Hypothesis, test, learn, adjust. This works whether you are 2 founders in a garage or a $100 million division at a massive corporation.
Mark, after everything we covered today, what is the one thing you really hope people do not forget?
Here it is. Your customers know more about your business than you do. The moment you accept that, everything changes. Stop building in isolation. Stop assuming you have the answers. Get uncomfortable, get curious, and let your customers teach you what to build next. The Marketing Execution Podcast is produced by Growth Stage Marketing. We are on a mission to see your company reach wild success using marketing pods.
Too big, accept dreams. Catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the marketing execution movement and community. To learn how growth stage marketing clients reach more buyers and drive business impact, go to growthstage.marketing. That's growthstage.marketing.